r/Nosleep. Posted by u/G_A93. My gruesome recovery at the Shamayim Project. How powerful do you feel? How amazing is it that our bodies can physically fight off germs, infections, injury? Have you ever thought about it? Can you imagine a life without it? Aside from our intelligence, I am of the belief that our body's natural ability to heal is what keeps the human race atop of the food chain, always spreading our seed onto the beautiful garden of Earth. Humanity, though, is no stranger to its low points. For example, I was a banker in Seattle. I drove a nice car. Had a great town home. At 25 years of age, I was better positioned than most people twice my age. Yes, I definitely loved the life I lived. As a young bachelor, I prided myself on being self-sufficient. Women came and went but never stayed. I did not need anyone to stick around to satisfy my needs. I was already self-made and had plenty of ego to take care of myself. Until one day, I met Mary. Mary was beautiful. Her very essence was a collaboration of love and beauty, taking me mentally to places I had never been before. She stuck around until I was about 27. Mary never really left me, just became a footnote in my life once I met Molly. Oh man, me and Molly had some great times. She made me feel invincible. Like nothing anyone said or did mattered to me. The only approval I needed was from her. I learned to be more carefree. She taught me how to dance, how to laugh, how to love. Molly always came around with a smile, and when she wasn't with me or she left in the morning I felt sick. Like I needed to puke but never having anything in me to distribute. No matter how bad I felt though, she always came back right on time to bring me up again. She was honestly making me lose my mind. My productivity at work dropped immensely. I stopped calling friends and family. I stopped everything really. Soon I was out of a job, then they repoed my car, then repossessed my home. I was a bum out on the street, and at the time I thought me and Molly would be fine, but she never really loved me. She loved my money. And though I know I shouldn't have mourned a relationship built on finance, I still couldn't stop the terrible feelings I felt when I wasn't around her. That was until I met Christina. Man oh man, Christina. She was something else. With her I didn't need a whole lot of cash or a fancy car. With Christina, we could just embrace and lay on the floor. Dive into another universe with each other. She never left me. The second she walked away from me I followed right behind to bring her right back. I was out of a job. Homeless. Didn't have any responsibility to attend to. Christina was my only care. Then one day she turned on me. She walked away from me one final time. And when I went to retrieve her, she wouldn't come with me. She batted me away like a taxi. I was infuriated with her. There was no talking to her either. She wouldn't do anything for me anymore. Well, I went to go find more Christinas. There were always more Christinas around her. I found everyone I could find and embraced all of them as my own. To fill the gap left in my heart. But instead of loving me, they attached me. Viciously. They clawed at me, scraping my soul and digging out my heart. Leaving me for dead. That's what happened to me. From the age of 25 to 30 I went from a successful kid with all the potential in the world to a bum on the street overdosing from crystal meth. It started with weed, eventually started partying with the wrong crowd, and finally I let myself fall deep into the closing thing to hell, addiction. Now, when I overdosed I knew that I was dead. I remember the feeling. Vividly. Because it was the only feeling in those 5 years that I really felt at all. The warm wave of comfort, blanketing me as my soul began to slip away. The thing was though, I didn't see who took me off of that alleyway. The only thing I remembered was blackness. When I awoke, I had an IV drip inserted into me. A heart monitor was making sure I was alive. This was an all too familiar scene to me, unfortunately. I remember sighing at the fact that I was still alive. Funny enough, if I would have known what I was in for, I would have jumped out of that window and killed myself. "Mr. Davis, welcome back," a man said. This man was in a white coat holding what I can only assume was my medical chart. His voice was deep and smooth. He put a hand on my shoulder. "We didn't think you were going to make it, but luckily for you, you are in the best medical facility on the west side of the United States. Of the world, if I do say so myself." I sat up. I realized the facility I was in was not your average junkyard room. No, this place was immaculate. The equipment looked to be state-of-the-art. A nurse came into the room holding a glass of water. She set it down next to me before exiting the room. She was so voluptuous. Even in my dazed state I couldn't ignore how ridiculously sexy she was. The doctor now came into view. "Don't sweat it, Mr. Davis. You're gonna get used to being around our facility. We are excited for you to join us." Us? I said, throat burning as I spoke. What is this, some sort of sobriety ring? Not exactly, he said with a smile on his face. It was then that I noticed something. Now to clarify, I'm not homosexual, but this man was gorgeous. He had dark smooth skin, light brown eyes. His smile was amazing, teeth pearl white. When he stepped back I noticed his build. He was shredded beyond belief. I could see it through his lab coat. I almost felt ashamed being in his presence in my condition. A guy blurted out. The withdrawal started to set in. I felt as if my skin lit on fire, picking up right from where it left off. I could no longer concentrate. I couldn't hear around me, but I could pick up some equipment being moved around. My eyes were opening and shutting as the pain riddled my entire body. In certain moments, as my eyes opened, I saw horrifically disfigured monsters above me. Black eyes and distorted mouths, dripping with saliva, ready to strike me down. I had no strength to scream or fight these hallucinations. Eventually I fell into a slumber. When I awoke this time, I found myself strapped down to a table. That same doctor from before, standing by as I came to. What happened? I said. Progress, Mr. Davis. What the hell is this? What the fuck's going on here? Answer me. I screamed, nearly ripping the straps off my forearms. The doctor smirked. Mr. Davis, do you believe in the ability for the body to heal itself? Through molecular reconstruction? The doc asked. What are you? The doc then uncovered the metal table in front of me. On it was a syringe, a spoon, a lighter and a rock. This is pure crystal, Mr. Davis. You may do what you want with it, but remember what I asked. I will step out for a moment and give you some privacy. With that he unstrapped me from the table, turned around and walked out. I instantly looked at the ingredients to cure all ailments. At this point I would have been frothing at the mouth to get the process started, regardless of the circumstance, but now I didn't even want to look at it. I was totally unaffected by the sight of it. As a matter of fact, I couldn't remember what it felt like to be on it. I decided to dump the tray into the garbage bin, and within minutes, the doctor came back in. A wise decision, Mr. Davis. Assuming it was your choice, correct? What is this place, man? What are we doing here? I said, feeling a bit defeated. The doctor gave another snicker before continuing. We are the biological advancement team for a private firm in Washington. We are more than a rehabilitation center, Mr. Davis. We are the future. You see, when I asked you if you believed if the body could heal itself, I wasn't talking about healing crystals and chakras, I was talking about science that the world has yet to see. A new steroid that would not only help cure your illness, break your addiction and heal your wounds, it would also advance your entire being. Mentally, physically, intellectually. You have passed the first test of the integration of DBM-12 into your system. I can only imagine what a man of your addiction level would have done as I left the room without our serum running through your veins. It occurred to me again that I no longer felt the withdrawal symptoms. No longer was I a prisoner to addiction. For the first time in months I felt the sun on my skin, shining on me from the window. I felt the breeze of air running over my skin. I could feel again. On the brink of tears, I managed to ask, "What is it you want from me?" "To help you, Mr. Davis. Believe it or not, we've been waiting for more people like you. People who die on the street. At their lowest points in life. Malnutrition and overall of poor health. We will use you to help propel ourselves into the future of medicine and quite possibly, the next stage of human evolution. Perfection." This was all a lot of information to take in at once. Though I did feel much better mentally, I was still so frail. A stiff breeze could have tipped me over. Over the next few days Dr. Ottemeyer, as I came to know him by, would assist me in day-to-day rehabilitation activities. I was to stick to a strict regimen that went as follows. 8 a.m. breakfast. 9 a.m. workout, rehab my ability to walk. From 10:30 a.m. to noon, mental work, reading, puzzle etc. 12 p.m. lunch. 2 p.m. rehab session. From 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. was my free time. 8 p.m. lights out. I wish there was something to complain about, but there wasn't. I felt amazing. The routine was exactly what I had missed from old life. Dr. Ottemeyer had given me back structure and daily doses of DMB-12. I must say, I felt incredible. From the time I woke up to 1 week after, I had recovered from death. Reincarnated from it. On the first day, simple walking was an issue. Eating felt like a chore and I was fatigued by any amount of reading. By day 3 I felt fantastic. I would be essentially sprinting out of bed. With an appetite of a bodybuilder. Workouts went from mobile skill rehabilitations, to bench pressing 300 pounds. My body had even begun to morph. I was becoming leaner, packing on muscle. My thirst for knowledge only grew as well. In my mental work time of the day, I consumed knowledge like a fish would water. At the end of the week, I had packed on 25 pounds of muscle. I was in the best shape I had ever been in. Everything about me had begun to heal. My teeth regained a shine that was lost to the drugs. My mind became sharper than ever before, grasping concepts I wouldn't be able to understand. I had been given a new lease on life. Then one day, as I was in my room, devouring another Anton Chekhov masterpiece, I heard screaming coming from the halls of the facility. It was a primal scream of angst and horror. I set my book down and slowly moved to my door, trying to see through the small window what was going on. It was quiet, I saw nothing. Suddenly, a woman slammed her face onto the window. All the vessels in her eyes had burst, leaving her look like a demon from hell. She continued her horrendous screams, slamming her face into my door. I jumped back before I saw two men grab her and pull her away from my door. Then away from the area. Eventually the hall became quiet again. My heart had been racing. My mind trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. I was in such a headspace that I didn't hear my door rattle open as Dr. Ottemeyer came bursting through my door. For once, he had a look of panic on his face. His usual smirk nowhere in sight. "Mr. Davis, are you alright?" What the hell happened?" I said, trying to contain my fear. The doc composed himself, wiped his head off with a handkerchief and sat beside me on my bedside. "Ms. Howlett is a patient here. Like yourself, she's a patient here. She was brought in with a serious heart condition. She accepted the treatment to see if it could curb her sickness. And it did. However, she had not disclosed the fact that she was still using other medications and had snuck them in during her transfer over here. The serum reacted poorly, causing her to have an episode. She will detox ASAP and return to her normal regimen as soon as she heals." "And what about me?" I said more sternly. "Am I a risk factor? Could I go all postal like that?" "No, Mr. Davis, she's been here for 2 days. You've been taking the serum for much longer. If there was to be a negative effect, we would have seen it by now. She is a rarity here." The tension was thick in the air. "Let's take a walk, Mr. Davis. I want to show you something." We walked down a hall and into an elevator. At that moment I realized I haven't seen the outside world in at least a couple weeks. Those dark benders I would get stuck in seemed to be a lifetime ago. It was insane. I thought of maybe walking to my old bank job and say hello to my old boss. Maybe he could see I was clean. He could. I stopped once the elevator doors opened. The doc directed me to exit and what I saw was a paradise. A large beachfront with yellow sand and crystal blue water. The sun hit my skin and made me feel so vibrant. I sucked in a fresh breath of air. Dr. Ottemeyer walked me around the corner to show me an area with homes and a small main street square. There were houses, businesses and people. People who looked so amazing. Not just in regards to their physical appearance but their whole attitude. Everyone had smiles plastered on their face. Laughing. Showing off pearly white teeth. It was almost as if everyone there was completely happy. "Where are we?" I said, looking at Dr. Ottemeyer with disbelief. There were no beaches that looked like this in Seattle. "You are where you need to be, Mr. Davis. A paradise so beautiful that the gods themselves request to stay here once in a while. You see, you have made such strides in your recovery that we consider you a type A candidate to start living amongst the people of Shemayim." "Does that mean they're all?" "Yes, Mr. Davis. Former participants in our project. Our aim is to progress society beyond the nuclear family of the 50s. We want to be the most perfect society in terms of living, health and happiness. In Shemayim, you will be living amongst the most perfect specimens to come out of our program. They are all friendly and loving and strive to be perfect in every sense of the word. You too can be a part of this. A part of history, when we prove that we have the answer to unlocking humanity's full potential. Or, you can take your gifts and rejoin the society that spat in your face at your lowest point." I stood there for what felt like hours, taking in the beauty that the scene in front of me had. Beautiful people in a beautiful home. Walking freely without a care in the world. They all had this look of being content. Like life had been figured out for them. It was amazing. I began to flash back to my decline. Remember the way that life had gone for me previously. Though I am to blame for all of my failures, I can still pinpoint the cruelty that society had handed me. Being slammed by officers when I needed help. Laughed at by young people as I begged for change. Watching the well-off spray insect spray into trash cans so that I could not look inside. Yes, I caused myself to become a slave to the drug but, When my chips were down and I reached out my hand for help, the world batted me away. "Mr. Davis?" Dr. Ottemeyer said. "So, how's the food here?" I said with a sly grin overcoming my face. Dr. Ottemeyer smiled before placing his hand on my shoulder and looking out to the sea of beauty that was Shamayim. 3 months later. As I woke up today, I took a glance at how amazing my life had been for the past 3 months. 3 months of self-care, dedication and an experimental drug. I was better than ever. I had completely transformed my being. My soul. When I looked in the mirror, I hardly recognized the person looking back at me. Things in Shamayim were perfect. I kept a routine, made friends and even found purpose. All while becoming a better person every single day. I worked in the town's architecturals and maintenance. If there was ever an imperfection, me and the team worked to take care of it. When the town requested plans for a new structure, we were the ones to come plan and build. I found a solace in the work I did. I found peace within this life. But like everything that had led up to this point, the high I was feeling was artificial. The city, setting and people were all hand-selected. Brought up from the ashes of hell to be given perfection on a plank. What person would ever want to give up paradise after the hell of being sick, demented or dead? It was around noon when it started. I was having a run in the park. There were people exercising, picnicking and just living this blessed life bestowed upon us. The sound of peace was broken by the sound of an ear-splitting screech. AGH. Every head snapped towards the entrance to the park. There in the center stood a deformed thing. 4 limbs, a torso and a head but none of it looked human. Its skin was purple in shade. Welts and jagged teeth covered its face. Eyes rolled back into its skull. It was the most grotesque thing I had seen in my life up until that point. Before I could make another assumption about it, the creature barreled forward. Screaming and swiping at everything in its way. It sniffed the air for direction. Almost like hitting play on a VCR, everyone scattered at once. And for the first time in months, the smiles disappeared. The laughing stopped. Shamayim became chaotic. The creature managed to get hold of some of the townspeople. Some people bitten into like a snack out of a child's lunchbox. Some were clawed to dead. This creature showed no mercy to those it grasped. As we all filed way out of the park, we saw what looked like militia members drive into the park with heavy-duty weaponry. I never dared to look back, but when I heard the soldiers massacring the creature, I heard it let out a shrill scream. What shocked me, is the word it was able to get out before its guttural death. It said help. We all filed into the cul-de-sac neighborhood. Trying to recoup and make sense of what happened. We all asked what happened, who was that, what's going on? No one had any answers. Almost as suddenly as we calmed our nerves, a woman in the group began to scream. She screamed in what seemed like pain. Gripping her head. Then her eyes. She began to claw at them as there was a burn so deep in her sockets, that she would rather be blind than deal with it. Several people tried to stop her. Tried grabbing at her arms but her strength became immense. She roared in our direction and she kept swiping at her eyes. Blood trickling down. Some people sprinted away from the scene. Others stayed and looked on in horror. I wish I would have ran. The woman dropped to her knees. Her skin now turning a sickly purple. Eyes rolling back into her head. That woman was becoming like the monster in the park. I wasted no time and began sprinting in the opposite direction. As I hit a main street in the compound, I saw another militia vehicle race by towards the woman. As I rounded the corner, I saw several more citizens on the ground. Writhing in pain and screaming up into the heavens asking God why. At this point I knew all too well the outcome for these sad souls. Confused and scared, I sprinted to the only place that made any sense, the care facility that I had come to love. As I approached the building, I noted a small fire in the main lobby. I approached cautiously. What I saw when I walked in was a massacre. Bodies of staff thrown about. Some ripped open from the abdomen. Many of whom with missing limbs. The worst part was that some of the bodies ripped in half were still alive. They would try and beg for help through the blood coagulating in their throats. I nearly dropped to my knees and threw up. Those monsters had ripped apart this entire facility. I thought of Dr. Ottemeyer and ran up to the elevator to go see if he was hurt. Perhaps he was in his office and could make sense of what the hell was going on here. As the elevator took me up to the floor I first received treatment in, I couldn't help but feel a sense of disbelief. Would this be it? As the doors opened, I noted how untouched the hall was compared to the main floor. Though I felt a mild sense of relief, it came crashing down when I saw the open door of Dr. Ottemeyer's office. I approached hesitantly and as I opened the door wider, there sat Dr. Ottemeyer. Looking out of his beautiful corner office window. As I rounded his desk, I saw that he was leaned back. A hole, blown into the bottom of his chin by the .38 sitting by his feet. I held back tears as I picked up the note sitting on his desk. It read, "To whom it may concern, I am sorry. There were major breakthroughs in this project. Major successes. However, these came at a price. The desire to be the first in my field to come up with a major life-changing drug caused my ego to skip important protocols in regards to safety. We now know there's a delayed fuse in the DBM12 formula. There is a trigger that can cause a psychotic break along with violent behavior. There is no information on the transformation as there is no creature to study. By my estimate, all participants in the project have a transformation period of 6 months to 1 year from initial injection. Though there have been rare instances that have occurred prior to the 6-month mark. This whole island is a floating death trap. I am sorry to my colleagues. I'm sorry to my patients. I am sorry to humanity. I only wanted to help." As I stood there dumbfounded, I couldn't help but start to chuckle. Here I was, this junkie. Dead in the street. Brought back to life by a magic drug only to fall the exact same way I began. I crumpled the note as I walked over to my old room. Now barren with only a few things including a laptop. So I write this now as my notice to the world. I fucked up. And now am staring at the barrel of a .38, unable to do what I know is best. As I look out onto the town I once found so much happiness in, I see nothing but fires and military shooting down all monsters and civilians, turned or not. I'd quit to do but know this, as you finish reading my story know that by now, I've been long gone. If you could learn anything from me, please, get the help you need when you need it.